Okay, so now that we have damageable set up and our player health assigned to, we can finally go ahead and create an obstacle that's actually going to hurt our player and also reset their position when they touch it. So to start, what we want to do is right-click in our hierarchy here in our test scene, and we're going to click 3D Object Cube. And most likely it's going to do something like this. It's going to put it in the floor of or somewhere in our world, but probably not in the room we want it to be. So we'll go to our transform component and set all those positional values to 0. It's going to put it in this corner over here. And then from there we can pull it out and use our movement gizmo to get that closer to the middle of our room. Doesn't need to be in the middle, but just somewhere where we can touch it with our player controller. Once we have it here, we want to adjust some of the scale on this guy. So we're going to look at the transform component once again. Let's change the Y value of this scale to, sorry, not 1 point, but 0.15. Give it just a little bit of width there, but we want it to be pretty thin. And then for the X and Z scale, you can kind of set them to whatever you want. You can leave them at 1 if you'd like, or adjust it to be something that is maybe a little bit more usable. So yeah, I guess I'll make mine 2.5 and 4. This is because when we actually make use of this in our levels, we're going to want to actually scale it in a custom manner in this X and Z direction to fit the area of the level that this is going to sit in. So for example, if you were putting this in a hallway, you might want to adjust the width so that it matches the width of the hallway, or if you want to make it longer or long enough to match the hallway, you can make it longer. We are going to be making a prefab out of this, so the reason for picking the starting dimensions are kind of important, is just so that we have a good baseline to work with when we do eventually add this to our levels. Now that we've got it here, we can go ahead and rename this to Hurt Floor. And then we can drag that into our prefabs folder, our gameplay prefabs folder here. Once we've got that created, let's actually go back to resources and go to materials. And we're going to create this hurt floor material. I've already got one here, so I'm just going to delete that one. We're going to right click and hit create and go to material. We're going to name this hurt floor. And then all we need to do is go up to this albedo field here where there's this color picker. We're going to select that and then drag that over. I think red is a good color for this. You really could use whatever color you want, but I think for floors that are going to hurt, we want red. So we can now drag that material right out onto the hurt floor there, and you'll see it updates it to be red, just like that. What we then want to do is click on Add Component and type Hurt Floor, and then hit New Script and make sure that Hurt Floor is in the name here, and then hit Create and Add. What that's going to do is create a script and add the component directly onto our Hurt Floor here. But we did make that prefab, and we want to update our prefab both to have our new color here and to have our script. So we're going to go up to this drop down that says Overrides, and we're going to hit Apply All. And now if we go look at that gameplay prefab for Hurt Floor, it's red and it's got that Hurt Floor script. We did just create that script using Add Component, which means that the script has been put into our Assets folder. So let's go ahead and move that into our Scripts folder here, and then into Created. There we go. And then once we have it in Created, let's go ahead and open that guy up. So what we want to start with is we want to add just one variable, and we also want to delete our void and start methods here. So let's just go ahead and backspace that out. We'll say public transform reset point. That's going to be the point where if our player touches this, we want to actually push them back to a previous point in the level. And we're going to say private void on collision enter, and then if you have IntelliSense, you can hit enter to autocomplete that, or if not, you can just copy that as it is there. And then we're going to say if collision.collider.tag is equal to player inside those quotation marks, and then we'll step out at our curly brackets and say not contact point, collision.gameObject.getComponent, and then in the angled brackets, player controller. And then outside of that are open and close parentheses, take damage. And then add our open close parentheses there. So that's telling our player controller, hey, if you've touched this thing, you're going to take 1 point of damage here. And then we are going to move our player's transform to that reset point. So we're going to say collision.transform.position is equal to reset point.position. So that's going to move our player to that transform position that we decided here. And then we're going to say if collision.collider.tag equals a box, then we want to reset that thing's position to the reset point as well. So we'll say collision.transform.position equals reset point.position. There we go. Again, we haven't actually made the box yet. That's going to be next week, but we just want to make sure our code is set up for that because we are going to be adding the box eventually. So now with that finished, if we go back to our scene here, and we select our hurt floor, we're going to see that empty reset point transform. What we can actually do is right click on hurt floor here and hit create empty, and then name this to reset point. So unlike our moving platform, we can actually package our reset point with our prefab because the hurt floor isn't going to be moving. So since our hurt point or our hurt floor is going to stay where it is, the reset point can be a child of it because we don't have to worry about it, the position getting thrown off by the object itself moving because of one of our scripts. So now we select hurt floor and we drag that reset point into our reset point field here. And then once again, we go to the overrides button and hit apply all. So now on our prefab, if we select that, it'll have its reset point assigned. And then the only thing we'll have to worry about doing when we add our hurt floor to our scene is positioning our reset point. So what I'm going to do is select our reset point and bring up my movement gizmo with the W key. And then I'm going to move it. You want to make sure you move it off of your hurt floor. If the reset point stays on your hurt floor, that means that when they touch it, they're going to get stuck in a loop on the hurt floor, and it's going to basically just immediately kill them, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to move our reset point off of our hurt floor here and move it over to the side a little bit. And then I'm going to move mine down just a touch so it's a little easier to run into. And now we'll see if I hit play and go and run into this guy. I'll even do this. I'll select our player. Pay attention to that health value there. You'll see when I run into it, my health drops by 1, drops down to 2, and my point gets reset to that side of the platform, just like that. And now it's at 1, and if I do it one more time, it's going to reset the scene. There we go, and now I'm back over to my start position. So if you run out of health, it'll reset the level and force you to start from the beginning, which is exactly the behavior we want out of these hurt floors in our level. Go ahead and save your scene now. Make sure your prefab is ready to go because in the next step, we're going to be setting up level 2.